party people. This is episode 13 of the Whatnauts Review Show. This is a show where every week we find something to entertain ourselves. A movie, a TV show, a comic book, a manga, an anime, a narrative podcast, all sorts of things. Anything we can absorb in a week, we read it, we watch it, we listen to it, and then we come back here and we have our little book club to discuss it. I am your co-captain, Melissa Wilkinson. I've been co-captain for a little while now, but this is my maiden voyage, actually saying the words at the beginning of the episode. Normally, that job goes to my fellow co-captain, Kyle Springer.
Hello. How's it going?
And we have a special guest joining us today. We have a special guest joining us today. There's a lot of new special things about today's episode. It's very exciting. We have a guest. This is my brother, Jams.
Howdy do.
Woo woo.
Oh, I can't believe I said howdy do.
Special guest.
Do you want a cooler podcast introduction?
No, I'm stuck with that now.
You're the howdy do man.
Oh no.
In a world where howdy do is the greeting of choice for everyone.
You know, that's not a bad land. That's probably the better world than ours.
Everybody is a marionette.
Whoa.
And he is here because our topic for this week is the film Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets.
Yes.
The 2017 film by Luc Besson. And this is one of your favorite movies.
It is. I worked at long story short, I worked at a comic book shop, and we've been getting in the habit of always seeing new comic book related movies Thursday nights before. And me and my buddy went in seeing this not knowing what to expect, and we were stunned. We loved it.
Interesting.
We were ecstatic. We were giddy in the theater, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. My only relation to this is we had a listener of a previous version of this podcast, and they suggested the comic book to us because we were looking for foreign movies and foreign comics and stuff like that, and they were like, "Oh, you guys need to do Valerian," and I was like, "Okay, I will put it on my list, but I don't know when we will get there." Yeah, so we had the comic book recommended to us, so that's kind of all I know it from. It's like, oh, there's a movie now, sweet. But I'm excited to have you on, Jams, because I have not heard the greatest things about this movie. So I'm wondering why it's so special to you, and what makes it stand out. So I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit more in detail soon here. But yeah.
Yep, you are here as this film's advocate.
I am down for this role.
So we've got quite an interesting little discussion we're starting up here. If you're listening to us on the podcast, you might not know this is a live show. We are recording this live every Sunday at noon Eastern and Central Time here, where I am in the Midwest. You can go over to twitch.tv/thewhatnauts. You can watch us, you can talk to us, we can chat back at you. It's a whole little party that you can join in on.
Yes.
But if you can't make the live stream, that's what the podcast is for. We release it as a podcast a week later, and it also goes up on our YouTube channel.
Join the party.
We also have ways you can get it even earlier than that with our Patreon, but I will talk about that towards the end of the show. Let's get into what this thing is about to begin with, because Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets is quite a title. Jams, would you... I practiced, but I didn't practice enough.
Jams is my preferred name to explain that thing.
Yeah, sorry. Would you like to explain to us the basic synopsis of what this story is?
Do you want the synopsis for the movie or for the concept of how it exists in pop culture?
Oh.
Can we do a little bit of both?
Yeah.
Okay.
Since we're talking about the movie, let's go with that first.
So we wanted to talk about the history a little bit first?
Oh, well, I mean, yeah. That sounds good to me.
I'm sure we'll mention a little bit more in detail further on, But yeah, Valerian is a comic book that started in France. This is a French comic originally, and it's only not too recently. I think in the last 10 years it's been adapted over to English. I may be wrong about that, but I know they've been re-releasing a lot of the comics in bigger formats. But the comic started in 1967 and ran until 2010.
Wow, I didn't know it was that long.
Yeah, it's a pretty long one.
I
mean, it takes a little bit to produce comics, but yeah, this was definitely a very influential comic for... Sorry?
They've been making it for a while.
A hot minute, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's been a very influential movie or a very influential comic and story for a lot of creators in France. It's influenced people that like worked on Star Wars. It's influenced a lot of other big things you wouldn't expect. Like, it's definitely a big influence on Luc Besson, the director of this movie. He was a fan of the comic before he started directing the movie. But the concept of it is we have our two space-word heroes. They are, I think it's Major Valerian and Lieutenant Laureline. I think it's Laureline? Laureline, thank you.
Yeah.
I've watched the movie. I should know.
I feel like at one point they said both of what we just said.
I think they did too, yeah.
So, I don't know.
It's casual. They're casual with it.
Yeah.
She doesn't care. And we follow them. They are spatial temporal agents. They, in the comics, and it's not mentioned here, but they do travel in time and space as part of this government agency in the distant future of, I believe it's 2147, which sounds closer than it appears in the movie.
Oh, yeah. It looks like centuries ahead of us.
Yeah. And the movie, we'll talk about that, but I really like how the movie brings us up to speed. But you see just these two agents, they're part of kind of this government / future agency just taking care of what needs to get done. Like, there's an artifact missing. Send Agent Valerian and Laureline. There's an alien catastrophe.
Catastrophe.
Thank you. Going about. Send them out. So it's definitely got a full cast of characters, and you see a lot of influence from the designs and from the other forms of media this is taken in the movie. So it's a very interesting story. In the movie, we see there is an alien species that has come to a unceremonious end, and this has an impact on Agent Valerian as they find out they have a little bit of time to... I'm not very good at explaining things.
You got it.
I'm almost there. I'm just trying to think, because the plot does jump around a little bit at the beginning of the movie, but
yeah,
there's the alien species was unceremoniously canned, we'll say. Canceled. And that has an impact on the rest of the world and on the rest of the movie as... God, I'm just trying to get to, like, this awkward pinpoint of where the movie kind of starts. There is lower notes to this movie, and this is kind of one of them.
Well, after they kind of kick the can, that's kind of when it shifts over to Valerian, and it's kind of our introduction to him, and we see them kind of on the tail end of a mission, and then they get a new one to protect the I don't even know what you call him, right? What his name is. Well, I'm also just terrible with names, so like military ranks and stuff like that is just nope. I'm gonna get nowhere near
just
that.
Agents.
Yeah. But
there's a conspiracy stuff going back with like the government and mistakes.
And so they're kind of tasked to investigate.
Yes, that's the easiest way to put it.
Yeah, this is a surprisingly complex plot.
Yeah.
So, if you haven't watched the movie yet, maybe you might want to take a break here. If you want to go find out for yourself, what is this plot? Why is this so complex? We're going to do a little spoiler warning. You can watch the movie. You can come back here. We will be right here waiting for you. The internet will not take us away. You can find us again and then you can listen to us talk about the movie and let us know what you thought. So yeah, past the spoiler break.
Welcome to the other side. This is spoiler full zone. Let's talk about how they died. No one died.
They survived.
Hey,
One died.
Can I pause you guys right there real fast? I don't know if it's my connection or yours, but I'm getting very robot voices from your end. Yeah. So
What's happening to it?
Robot voices. It's slowing down.
Robot voices.
Yeah.
Is there... How's your Wi-Fi here?
I have good Wi-Fi.
Why is that? Let's see here.
Are we still sounding like robots?
Not at the moment.
Huh.
But every now and then it will slow down and be like, what is happening?
We were getting a little bit of that with you when we first connected, but I figured that was just part of the connection establishing.
Yeah, that'll happen to me every once in a while, and like it always seems to be fine.
How long did it happen?
It's happened a couple times, and it was for a few seconds. Let's see. Stream is looking good on my end.
Oh, where did he go?
You're frozen and we can't hear you.
Oh no!
I don't see us dropping any frames.
Oh.
Hey, I am still here.
Oh boy.
We are having some technical difficulties.
We throw one extra person into the mix, and like the computers forget how to be computers.
Guys, maybe I should go. This is this is bad luck. I've brought a pox on this house.
No.
Let's see if I'm not running that. Why is... Okay. Let's see. Let's see if things kick up now. I think... Are things good on your end?
Yeah, I can hear you pretty well. Like, our audio levels look good.
Okay. I'm just gonna imagine things are good from now on. I had some random, like... not pop-up, but like dialogue box that I had on my thing. So I'm wondering if it was that. But I closed it out now. So we'll see. We're good. Spoiler warning done now. There we go.
So do we want to talk about Valerian, the movie as a whole, and what we thought about it, or...
Yeah, I mean, what did you guys... Obviously, James, I know you loved it.
I did.
So, Melissa, what did you think?
You brought this movie over to our family, and we all watched it together on, like, Thanksgiving. Us and our parents sat down and just had, like, a good sci-fi night.
Yeah.
And I was very glad
That's
you were
fun.
able to talk them into letting us watch that.
Yeah, I think they know Fifth Element, so I'm like, hey, Mom and Dad, this is Luc Besson's other film.
It's another weird sci-fi film.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd seen it then, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it enough to, like, recommend it to you, Kyle, and be like, this has got a lot of layers that we could talk about. And so I just watched it again this week to get prepared for this recording. And I'm very intrigued to find out what you ended up thinking about it, Kyle.
Yeah. So I mentioned I had heard not the greatest things. And I think that kind of lowered my expectations a lot going into this film. I ended up liking it more than I thought I would.
Good. Nice.
That said, I still don't know if it works.
I'm really glad to hear you say that.
I think you mentioned it has a very complex plot, and it's trying to do a lot of stuff. And I think overall, while it ends up making sense, I think it's just trying to cram a lot into a small space. And I wish there was more time to kind of explore exactly what's happening, who all these different aliens are, and all these characters. Because to me, it just ended up kind of feeling a little bit shallow, if that makes sense.
That's a good word for it.
Yeah.
But that being said, yeah, I mean, I think it's a fun sci-fi film. Like, I don't think there's something I thought, like, oh, this was bad. Like, I don't think there was anything that was like that in the film. And I think I ended up having a lot of fun. So, yeah.
That's exactly a big base reason for why I love the movie. It was just a fun romp, a fun adventure.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And it's so positive. Like, this isn't a dystopian future. It's a fairly utopian future. Like, there's a little bit of a crime underbelly, but it never gets that dark. Nobody really seems like they're in that much danger from day to day. Like, there is the big battle that causes the destruction of Planet Mule, but other than that, life seems pretty okay. This isn't a world rampant with murder and destruction. And
Not
I like
here, at least.
Yeah, at least it's not explored all that much in this movie.
Right.
Yeah, and so I like that vibe of it, just how positive and optimistic it feels, which they start off with at the very beginning. Like, I think this movie is one of the coolest beginning scenes I've ever seen.
Yeah, I do want to talk about this opening. It is one of the most original world-building, like, introductions I've ever seen for a movie. I don't think this was in the comics the way they introduced this. A little, like, summary, like, you see, like, the history of man entering space and man establishing, like, you know, space bases and space stations. Those are what those are called, not space bases.
Space bases.
Space stations. Trading spaces, space bases.
Space base sounds like something if you had, like, an intergalactic game of tag or manhunt, you know, and you're just like, where's the space base?
Hey, Velthar, let's go play some space base. I'm on base. I'm safe. I'm on Terra.
Exactly.
Yeah. The opening is so wonderful. You see, like, piece by piece, like, year by year almost, you see the expansion of one space station, expanding its technology, opening new nations from Earth. Like, you see, like, what becomes a standard, like, someone going through a door and shaking hands with, like, the current captain of the ship, or the captain of the station. And you see this throughout the course of Earth. Like, everyone from Earth is on this big space station. That's going to be hard to say. Space station. But you see the space station itself expanding in pieces as they kind of add pieces on in a I guess that's how space stations work, but they add them on in perpendicular, like
modular.
Patterns.
Yeah, it's like a big floating connects set.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very space age. But, like, after, like, I think a few hundred years, an alien ship comes by and docks with them, and you see the captain be like, all right, we're doing this, and shakes hand with that alien species, and you get, like, more fast forward and technology's advancing, and you're seeing their uniforms update, you're seeing, like, the environment around them update, like, to get more advanced, and you're seeing more and more different alien species until it pans out and it's this giant, like, mass, like, half, like, I think it's like half or like a quarter the size of the planet or something like that. And they say it's too, like there's Rutger Hauer plays the I think he's like
he's the president of space.
Yes, that's we'll go with that.
Space Prez.
Prez. He's the Space Prez, and he's like, he makes an official announcement like, it's too big. Guys, it's too big. It's stuck in our gravity. It's gonna kill us if we don't get it out of here. So
it's too big, just across every newspaper headline.
The New York Times. It's too big.
No one saw
what she said.
That was on all of that was the second column in all the newspapers. So they're like, we're gonna blast it off into space, and we're gonna send our, good, Godspeed and good luck.
Yeah.
And they send a bunch of little rockets from Earth, and they all attach on there like a big connect-a-dot, and it shoots off into space, and that's kind of where it fades out, and that's where we get, like, our next intro.
Yeah. And this scene is also entirely set to Space Oddity by David Bowie, which is a really good choice, because I feel like this is the future that Major Tom was dying for.
Yeah.
And also, I just noticed this today, like, I'd seen this movie twice, and this opening is so good that, like, when I had time to kill this morning waiting for recording to start, I'm like, I'll just watch the opening again. The lines, Tell my wife I love her very much, she knows, are paired up exactly with Dane DeHaan and Cara Delevingne's names appearing on the screen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
That's awesome.
And like their whole subplot with each other is that Valerian's trying to get Laureline to marry him.
Yeah.
And like, oh, they had it matched up perfectly, and I never noticed it before, and it's the tiniest touch, but it's such a great little mark of effort.
Yes.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That worked out really well.
This movie is nothing if not all about the little touches.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much polish on this movie. Like, you were talking earlier about positivity.
Yeah.
The amount of niceness.
Yes.
Like, the consideration and politeness. Like, I remember this specifically, but I made a note about this. There's a little bit more to the movie, but later on when we cut to Valerian and Laureline on their ship's name is Alex, and they address it, and they say thank you to whatever Alex does, and Alex is like, oh, you guys were like, we're still like on our way, so I let you guys have a little bit more hologram time. Like, the ship is nice to them, and they're nice to it, and you see that continue on a little bit more in the like general proceedings of the movie, and I really like that.
Yeah, and I think that does a good job of making the villain really villainous when he is an outlier in this world, where this is a world where most people aren't jerks. This guy is a jerk, and that's a big problem.
You big old jerk. Yeah, it's I liked. I think visually, which is kind of why you pitched this, Melissa, is like, this is a visually stunning film, and I think there is just a lot of little small things that I think you can dig out of this film, because it's a lot to look at, a lot of different alien species, lots of different colors and ins and outs of the spaceships and stuff like that. So,
yes,
a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we want to talk about Planet Mule and that whole introduction and conclusion?
Yeah, we don't need to go through the whole movie, like, beat by beat, but that is a really interesting second scene. Like, it's not until, like, the third scene of the movie where we actually meet our heroes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Planet Mule is...
I do kind of want to talk about that. Because here was one of my gripes with the film. I don't know if they did a good enough job of making me care about Valerian.
Yes.
Yep.
And
he's really not likable right off the bat.
He is not, and I think even by the end of the film, it's like, dude, you're a dick. Like,
yeah.
But I think also starting the film off with, or I guess not starting it, but having that second scene be this alien species that we then kind of get to know, and it's like, okay, now the kind of expository scene of, all the explanation of how we got to where we are now, that's done. Now let's slow down and start watching this film. And we're introduced to this alien species, and I start to care about them. And then it moves on from them. So I'm like, oh, so am I not supposed to really care about them? Or just enough to be like, okay, that will come up down the road. And... so I kind of wanted to explore the film more from their perspective of like, once at the end of the film we find out what these aliens did past that, and that they were kind of living on this spaceship without being detected and stuff like that. Like, I kind of want to know that story, like how did they live on this giant spaceship with no one actually really realizing that they were there.
Yeah, like over the course of what was mentioned as 30 years, which does not seem like enough time for how far this, not small, but like less technologically advanced civilization.
Yeah.
They end up on a piece of like space wreckage that is safe somehow after the explosion of the planet. And they're floating in space, and they learn everything they need to work the spaceship, get it up and running, and then learn everything they need to about the universe in 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, that said, they are alien, too, so that while they might not be technologically advanced, maybe they learned everything they needed to learn on their own planet already because they, like, are highly adaptable or something like that.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still weird. It's like 30 years and you learned all these languages and engineering and you know all you
Right, yeah.
You learned this like cloaking and shielding technology that even these guys don't know about, you know. So it
You
like
were able to evade the government.
yeah, like I was kind of more interested in their story more than I was Valerian's. And
Yeah.
I guess something that's interesting to note is that the comic book is called Valerian and Loreline. And the movie kind of cuts her name off of this, and it's Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets. And if that's what your title is going to be, like, I feel like that's what I should be interested in the story. Like, and I wasn't interested in Valerian, and we didn't really get enough of the City of 1,000 Planets to really be interested in it. Besides, it's a thing.
Yeah.
So that was kind of confusing to me. But how did you guys feel about that, Melissa? I saw you getting a little excited and shaking your head there when
I wanted to talk about how. Yeah, her name is cut out of the title, but I like how Laureline really is as important as Valerian. Like, they have equal screen time. Their faces are the same size on the poster. Like, she's just as capable as them, and they are, like, really good partners. And I think it's just the fact that they wanted cool sci-fi terminology in the title, but also, like, one short word people could use to refer to the thing.
Yeah.
That they ended up calling it Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets, because Valerian and Laureline, not sci-fi enough. Valerian and Laureline and the City of 1,000 Planets.
But it's not as hard to say as Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets.
Yeah.
Now, this abbreviation is actually not something they introduced for the movie, in fact. Because the comic has been around for so long, at some point, and I was going to save this for later, but in my research I found out this was not the only adaptation of this comic. They also had an animated TV show. For like, I think like 26 episodes. I think they had 2 seasons.
Ooh.
Yeah, and this was produced and animated in France. It was, I don't think it has... It may have an English translation now, but it didn't back then. But yeah, that show was called Valerian Spatio-Temporal Agent.
There you go.
Yeah, so I think this is a better title than that.
Or you know what, it might have been even something else. I think it was like...
Valerian and a mouthful of words to make a really long title.
I think it might have been called like Space something.
Space Base.
It was called Time
Valerian
Jam.
and the Space Base.
It was called Time Jam, Valerian, and Loreline.
Jam.
Yeah.
Time Jam. There you go.
Yeah.
That sounds super like early 90s. Welcome to Time Jam.
Yeah, that's my favorite arcade game. It's right next to like House of the Dead.
Oh, but that costs 8 quarters. We'll play that last.
Yeah, I feel bad that 1,000 Planets got billing ahead of Laureline, but I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, my favorite part of this movie, outside of just the visual glitz and glamour of the entire thing, is their relationship, because I'm just a huge sucker for the investigative partners who like each other and they bicker with each other as their method of flirting because they're not good at expressing themselves. Like, that trope is one of my favorite tropes. And this is admittedly not even a great version of that trope, but it still is that trope, and so it still got me. It still got me, like, suckered right into the whole thing.
Yeah, like, I saw it in there, but I couldn't get past the fact I was just like, Valerian, you're kind of a dick. Not even kind
like
of, but
a little too.
Yeah, pretty dickish.
Yeah, it's too rough around the edges to be like really successful. Like if somebody else was talking to me, like, oh, I love bickering investigative partnerships. Like, I hold this one in my own heart, but I probably wouldn't recommend it to anyone. It's not very well honed, but I think both the actors do a decent job. I feel like they've got fair chemistry with each other. And also, like, the dialogue isn't quite as snappy as you would like out of something like this.
Yeah.
But the choreography of them, like, I think this movie was really good, not just at fight choreography, but just at, like, blocking and just the way characters, like, moved and interacted around each other.
Interesting.
Like, when we see them at the beginning, he's, like, on the holodeck, and he's lounging in this, like, virtual beach, and she comes over to him, and he, like, flips her up on top of him, and she's like, not so fast, we have work to do. And then she, like, flips him back, and they're doing this, like, physical dance around each other that is just really graceful and sharp, and it looks really good, and I'm glad that they put effort into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna. I was gonna say I really thought this was either going to be this kind of introduction to these two characters' relationship. Mm-hmm. Not going in knowing anything, we're forced to learn who's right and who's wrong.
Yeah.
And I couldn't tell if that was the movie being bold, like to just drop us into a situation, which can just happen sometimes, or if that was just really awkward. I think it might be a little bit mixed up both.
Yeah.
What was awkward about it for you?
Just like I couldn't tell where the flirting was appropriate.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't tell how long these people had been working together. Like, you find out, like, that they have, like, a good connection, like, later on through, like, context clues, and, like, he says it a few times, like, I would only work with you, like, I'm only gonna work if she's working. Like, stuff like that. But right off the bat, he's flirting very hard, and she's very not for it, and I'm like, I don't know how comfortable I should be with him as my protagonist.
Yeah,
like,
they do kind of leave you in a weird gray area for a couple minutes where you're trying to figure out, like, okay, is this just how these two people are with each other, or is he, like, legit not a great dude?
Yeah, like, I kept going back to Han Solo, and just the fact that he's often referred to as this, like, lovable scoundrel. Like, he actually is a scoundrel. Like, he's doing things that might not be the best, but he's at least, he kind of has this lovable charm, right? And I was like,
yes, yeah,
you're a scoundrel, but you don't have that lovable charm yet. When is it coming? Quite. When is it there? And I think it also kept throwing me off because when we're introduced to Han Solo, he is older, right? Like, you can tell he's just by his age. It's like, okay, you've probably been in this business for a while, but both of these actors look very, very young, right? And it seems more like the teen sci-fi, like, heartthrobs.
And their age is very vague.
Yeah, and so to have them, I think as the film progresses, like, yes, you can tell that they have this chemistry, and yes, I'm supposed to think that they've had it for a while, for a long, long time, especially with how long his playlist is, which is a weird thing to call that, but I mean, just like with how long that is, and then to see how their chemistry plays out, and as much as they do kind of bicker, and as much as she's kind of not feeling the kind of sexual interaction and flirting, like, it seems like I'm expected to think that they've been at this for a while. And it just kind of threw me off for a bit. It's like, interesting. But they're human, right? So they should. Are they older and they just don't look the part, or are they actually aliens and we don't know it? And I don't know.
What are the social norms of this new civilization?
Yeah. I mean, because they also do mention that they are, like, mixing cultures and stuff like that. So, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that, like, what we're used to down here on Earth is the norm for them, like, 500 something years in the future, you know, especially when they're mixing in alien culture and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I kind of liked how young the protagonists were, because there have been so many like YA like action adventure things lately, like your Hunger Games and your Divergence and what have you. I like that this was just a couple years older than that. Like, okay, this is a look at what if you took that like young adult action hero and you put a couple more years on them, put more training on them, put them in like a regimented society where they can actually like rank up to people, and this is what those characters look like as young professionals. Like, there's no other, I can't point at any other story that has characters quite like Valerian and Laureline, where they are very young, like battle-hardened professional investigators.
Yeah.
I wanna mention something real quick. This isn't something that they talk about in the movie.
Okay.
But this is a fact about the comic about Laureline. She's not from his time.
Whoa!
Yeah. Did you know this?
Bum bum bum. No, I did not.
Yeah. So yeah. Sorry, we got a little bit of skipping right there.
No, you're fine.
Yeah. So Laureline is from 10th century France.
What?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Or maybe 11th century. Yeah. So I mentioned that Valerian is like a spatio-temporal agent. So he went back to the past to fiddle with something. This is the very first story of the comic, actually. It's him going back to 10th century France.
He picks her up from Joan of Arc times?
I think so, yeah.
Whoa!
And she's
Hey, babe,
she's
we're
just
going
this,
to space.
Well, I think she finds out, like, oh no, you're a time traveler. And he's like, well, can you curse on here?
Yeah, go for it.
Yes.
Say
Well,
whatever you want.
Yeah.
I had to stop and think for a minute, because I don't, and I'm like, Kyle does, right?
I say fuck all the time on here.
So yeah, Valerian's like, oh fuck, well, you're coming back with me. You can't know about time travel in 10th century France, so also you're cute, so yeah.
You're stuck
This
with
is
me.
what I want, like,
Right.
the third Bill and Ted movie to be like, where they take those princess babes and they're like, we're gonna teach you the laws of time travel.
So-
And together all of them solve time travel crimes.
Ooh, the
Time crimes.
time crimes, time jams. I have a relationship with this. I didn't think about that.
That's your handle.
It's my ooh.
Hey, there you go. That works. Time jams.
Yeah. So that's a weird. That's not something that they really address, but I can kind of see how that character in the back of her head, like, I'm not really from here, but I mean, I'm down with these new space age ways.
Yeah.
Because they kept, especially the alien species that we see at the start and at the end of the film, who has the little pearl poopers, as I called them. I was like, it's pooping pearls.
And they just call it a converter.
Yeah, a mule converter.
It's a pearl pooper. But they kept mentioning, like, wherever you go in space and time, you know, like they kept mentioning, like, and time, you know.
Right.
And so, like, that kind of struck me as odd. So yeah, like I didn't know that they also did stuff within the time stream, and, you know, went back in time or forward in time or who knows what. So that's an interesting fact. I'm wondering, were they planning on making a sequel of this film, or do you know?
It doesn't seem like it. That's not really Luc Besson's style.
Okay.
To do like a feature series of movies. It's more his style to just, like, let's talk about this world all at one spot, which is maybe part of the downfall of why this feels a little jumbled together.
Okay. Yeah, because, like, like, for me, the whole, like, interstellar, like, military sci-fi stuff, that is my cup of tea.
Nice.
Yeah, and so, like, I feel like I should like this, and I do to an extent, but my thing was I don't feel like I got enough. Like, yeah, they kept mentioning this whole, like, and time. I was like, okay, like, what does that mean? Our
Footnote time.
Yeah, footnote time. Note to self: read up on that. But like, it like. Even that, and just the way that they're like that whole city of 1,000 planets, like it's in the title, but like I mentioned, we don't get more of it besides like, hey, it's a thing, it exists, and we have the opening scene, but beyond that, like I don't really feel like I know its purpose. It felt like the humans were in charge still, which also seemed strange to me.
Yeah, I don't know if they were in charge so much as like there was like a head of Alpha, and that happened to be humans, but there was also a senate of aliens, and one of them was human. And the nice thing actually in that scene is we saw one of all the aliens that all came and shook his hand, and I also really like that piece of polish.
Yeah. I guess it was just weird to me because that was really the only like military thing that we saw. So again, it was like, are the humans the military for this thing? Are they kind of in charge? Because he's making some big decisions on like, hey, we're gonna. I mean, like you said, he's a jerk.
Yeah.
But like the bad guy, it was like deleting species from the thing. Like he's covering up his own bad decisions and stuff like that, but we don't get to see much of the ramifications of that outside of the humans and like the species he deleted.
The species is called the Pearls, actually.
The Pearls, okay.
Yeah, the Pearls of Mule.
Yeah, that's easy to remember.
But yeah, so like for people that don't care about the spoiler wall, now that we're beyond it, one of the commanders of this government, this who's ever running this big show, this big top, they were part of a big war with another species, which doesn't get named. They don't say what the war was or anything like that.
Doesn't seem to really matter. There's just a battle.
There's a big battle over the planet of Mule, and he makes a decision recklessly, knowing the cost of this planet, but ignoring the civilization that is on it, and says, we're going to end this battle right now by firing nuclear missiles, I think. Or not
basically.
Fission missiles. And he hits the ship that they're firing at, and then the ship crashes onto the planet and destroys the planet.
Yeah.
And we're seeing him, like, from the beginning of the movie, like, we also see him, like, having backup plans for when this is all going to go to hell. Like, when everything's going to come up to bite me, I'm ready to fight everyone about this.
Yeah. Because, like, to me, having a detail like that battle above the planet, that's really neat. Like, I love that kind of world building, and I don't necessarily need to know about it in the same way that I want to know more of, like, okay, who is Valerian? What is his motivations? Why is he doing this and stuff? Like, that, especially in like an intergalactic sci-fi type of thing, like, that's to be expected. Okay, there's going to be some battle or war or trade federation, and like I guess the one detail that I did want to know more about that was the military thing. Like, okay, it's humans fighting someone or something, but then once we get past that, again, the only military thing we see is humans. So it's like, this is it's just strange. Like it's both, like, that to me doesn't necessarily drag down the movie, but it's just like, I want to know more about that. Why isn't it in this film? So
I think it might be a little bit based on just this whole, like, space station was human based, and aliens came and joined it. So I guess at some point humanity was like, well, this is getting, we're getting too big for our britches here in this. I haven't used that phrase before. I don't know if I like that. That's a dad phrase. I don't think I like that. But yeah, we're going a little bit overboard here. That's better. And he was like, well, we need to take charge. So I'm sure there was some kind of like, hey, aliens, we're gonna like take care of this stuff since it was our first core space station.
Originally, it's our thing, yeah.
Yeah, so I could understand a little bit of why it's human-based.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows?
I think this movie had so much going on, and it was tricky to balance. We're going to make you know about and care about these characters, but also we have so much world building to deal with.
Yeah, I really enjoy the world building, honestly.
Yeah, the world building is great, but it just brings up so many extra additional questions. You're like, wait, hold on, now how does that work? And there's too many questions raised for them to ever really deal with all of them with enough time that is really needed.
There is something interesting in the way they do that, though, is every time they introduce, and you notice this for the most part in their first introductory mission where they're on Big Market.
Oh, I love Big Market.
So that's where I first see a trend in how they introduce technology.
Mm-hmm.
Is they'll bring you up to it and say, this is kind of a little bit of what this is. This exists in this world. Let's have fun with it.
Yeah.
We see a lot of that coming into play as now that we've introduced it, let's have fun with this concept.
Mm-hmm.
Big Market is a market that exists in another dimension.
Mm-hmm.
So it's this big empty corral on this desert planet with a bunch of tourists and school buses.
Yeah.
I noticed this. All the school buses have the same interior.
It's like what if Mad Max happened in space?
Yeah.
And it was a mall.
Yeah. In a giant super mall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a virtual mall. You're just walking around this big, flat expanse of plains with a VR helmet on, and you're buying real goods virtually?
No, you're buying real goods, just not in your dimension.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's a big, machine like they have at the airport that scans your stuff, except you put... While you're in that dimension, and they have a holographic projection of what you look like in that dimension, or how you can exist in that dimension.
Yeah.
And you put it through that machine, and you have it in your big desert corral. So, but yeah, they introduce that technology, and then you see Valerian kind of cheat the system and say, what if I was in that dimension but they couldn't see me? Mm-hmm. Or what if I had a gun and the gun was the only thing they could see, so I'm a floating gun? And then he gets stuck as a floating gun, and that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Stuck as a floating gun is just a horrifying destiny.
Ugh. Or the beginning of a buddy cop movie.
Stuck as a floating gun!
Yeah, I think... What was your guys' favorite world? Because I think that planet was my favorite world. How, on the outside, it looked just like this barren... desert planet, but then they show up in tourist stuff, and they're just what are you doing? And they're like, we're supposed to blend in with the locals, right? But then there's this thing where it's in another dimension on that same planet is where the mall actually exists, and so they have to do this phase shift thing between the two. I'm like, that's really cool. I like that. So, what was there a world or a place that stood out to you? Because they had that one. There was, I guess we saw bits and pieces as he was running through the city of 1,000 planets. We saw the
it was colonies.
Yeah, and we saw the red light district thing that they had there,
I like that place.
Space red light
Valley a lot.
Yeah, space red light districts are always really fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there was just a Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah,
yes.
I noticed that. I was like, what in the world? That was
I
strange.
love how many we were in future space, but so many modern 20th century sexy things still exist, French maid outfits still hot in the year 2352, a couple galaxies away.
Well, this is a France project.
It is a French project.
Do they have French maids in France still?
I don't know.
Why are French maids anywhere except France?
That's their main export. It's cheese, wine, maids, and
Maids.
Valerian.
Valerian.
There you go. Yeah.
Now
So,
you're ready for that France book report.
so what were the worlds that stood out to you guys?
That's a very good question. I really do enjoy the concept of big market. I love when things are in contradicting dimensions, but it works out. Like, that was a very interesting and cool concept. But yeah, I think I just like the concept of, like, the city. Like, it's just a big gridiron of different civilizations, and I don't think I could pick one. I would just want to sample each one as a civilization platter.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the visual design of Mule, just aesthetically, like the color palettes and textures and
is really
everything that
cool.
is working with. I love Big Market because it's a mall, and these are two things I love most of all: bickering investigative partnerships and malls. But yeah, Paradise Alley was also really cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. We mentioned Jessica Rabbit. Did you guys catch any other references that are in this? Because I didn't know. You mentioned the comic started in the 60s, I think is when
67. Yeah.
67. So this was before Star Wars, before I think a lot of Star Trek. You can correct me if I'm wrong, because I know absolutely nothing about Star Trek.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's before most Star Treks.
So this is one, as you mentioned, that has influenced a lot of sci-fi that we now know and love today. But I saw a reference to Star Wars in there as well. There is the scene where they fall into the trash compactor.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, like, did you guys happen to catch anything else? I'm not sure what else is in there. I'm sure something from Star Trek is in there somewhere. They do
I didn't.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say I didn't see any other, like, pop culture things in Pleasure Island,
Paradise Alley?
Paradise Alley, the red.
It's all
place,
the same.
The red light place,
The red light district. Yeah.
I do have a fun fact for something I didn't realize until I dug deeper on IMDb. The intro where we're seeing all those captains giving different handshakes, all of those captains are French directors and writers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So that's kind of cute. And one of them, their last name is Megaton, like Megahead. Like one of the last ones we see, his last name is Anton
Megatron?
Anton.
Oh, tie-in. Oh.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's a little, like, bonus, like, interesting look.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, there really is so much, like, love and attention poured into this film. Like, I don't know if it's the best constructed story. The dialogue's not particularly memorable, but the way it looks and the way it just feels is really strong.
And all the characters except for our protagonists, I'm kind of endeared to.
Yeah,
the way they introduce side characters, I'm like, I like this guy.
Yeah.
Like Herbie Hancock and his, like, his defense minister.
Yeah, and, like, Bubble is there for so short a time, but...
That's Rihanna, yeah.
Yeah,
like,
we all love Bubble.
They
Yeah,
haven't
she did
even
a
mentioned
great job.
Rihanna.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes!
Rihanna did a strip, like, not a strip,
A burlesque.
A burlesque, that's the right word. A burlesque show for Valerian at some point, which was awkward when we watched this with our parents.
I think I was so entranced I, like, forgot the rest of the world besides me and the television screen.
Forgot there was a mom next to you.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of the point of that scene, because it's such a, it has absolutely nothing to do with what's happening there. He just kind of gets dragged into this thing, and it happens, and he's like, well, she's kind of hot. I'm just going to sit there and watch this thing.
See a little bit of his lady killer, like, come out of him.
Yeah. So I mean,
that was also a really great scene.
It's a fantastic scene, and, like, her performance is fantastic. But yeah, it's one of those things that's like, well, this is happening. I guess we're gonna sit there and watch this whole thing. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rihanna.
And there was also that whole scene with like the submarine and like getting the squid and talking to she calls these three little gargoyle things. Can we talk about those real quick?
Yeah,
Yes.
I had a point to make about those three little. It's like a duck bill that transforms into an elephant trunk.
It's a space platypus.
It's some sort. Imagine some sort of a platypus.
The shingaos.
Shingaos.
Yeah. I wanted to, like, the first thing I thought about when I was thinking about these, or I mean, when I watched this for the fourth time, but, like, the first thing I thought about this time was those guys are what if the Men in Black worms went into capitalism and not coffee.
Yes, they also reminded me of the Men in Black worms.
We are siblings.
Yes! What I wanted to say about those guys is that they're so money hungry. Like, they have all this information that they collect and they sell and they trade for money. But I'm like, you guys, you don't wear clothes. Like, what are you going to spend this money on?
They have, like, fanny pack things.
Are they going to buy better fanny packs?
They'll be down at the red light district that afternoon.
At the fanny pack store.
I guess so, because they were so eager to collect money, and it wasn't clear to me, like, what they wanted it for and, like, what they were going to spend it on.
I think they were just, like, going to spend it to bribe other people for more information, like what they did with the ship captain.
Sure.
Who, by the way, that ship captain, his only other role that I recognized was the role of Napoleon Bonaparte from Night at the Museum. Other than that, he's just a French actor.
There you go.
Yeah. There's so much interesting.
I feel like those three people, I again don't remember what they were called. I feel like they were the ones that brought up the Star Trek reference. Because when they address the ship captain, they don't say it exactly, but they're like, "We hope you have a long life, and we hope you prosper."
Oh yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, it's a stretch, but live long and prosper," you know. Or
that's a head nod with a shrug.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I can connect it. Like, I can connect the dots in my head, but you didn't say the exact thing, which is fine, you know.
Right.
This isn't something that I feel like the movie is alluding to, but one thing the City of a Thousand Planets reminded me of was Pacific Rim. They're in Hong Kong or Singapore, maybe, and the way that city operates outside of the Shatter Dome, where people are just crowded together in these makeshift houses because kaiju keep destroying the city, and there's like that seedy underground where you go find Ron Perlman. Those things reminded me. Those things reminded me of each other.
Yeah.
In that weird world of G Gundam, of like whatever that is.
I'm a huge Gundam fan, so.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about a Gundam. I learned Jaegers only.
One day, I will educate you on some Gundam stuff on this show.
Deal. I probably need it. I'm like the only person of my generation that didn't see Gundam Wing, and I feel behind my peers.
You definitely watched Gundam Wing.
If I did, I don't remember
I remember specifically us, like, you having friends over and they had Gundam Wing or like Gundam Wing Endless Waltz or something like that.
They showed it to me, but all I remember is a series of haircuts.
Waltz. The 3 beats of war, peace, and revolution continue on forever.
Yeah, we will. Yes. We will have to do my Gundam education at some point.
Definitely.
We'll make that a podcast.
I was gonna ask you guys. So I mentioned at the start, I don't really feel like the title of this show fit well with what this movie was. If you had to rename this film, what would you rename it as? Let's figure that out, because
it's too big.
It's
Valerian.
Too big.
It's too big. Or Valerian.
Eyebrow raise?
Yeah, Valerian and the Pearl Pooper.
Yeah.
Pearl Pooper.
Do you guys have any suggestions of what this might be?
I mean, Time Jam doesn't work, but Space Jam is taken.
Space Jam is taken. So Time
Valerian
Jam.
and Laureline's bogus journey.
There you go. That works as well.
This is just flirting the space opera.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Do you guys have any kind of final thoughts or recommendations if you guys liked this? What else you might like?
I kind of want to talk about the reception of this movie.
Go for it.
And about how it was received by comic fans. A lot of people I talked to didn't like it. Just flat out, right out, this is something about me. This is something I'm used to. I love all the comic book movies and pop culture movies that everyone else hates.
Same, yeah.
This is my niche.
We are alike in this.
Yeah, I love, I own Ghost Riders. More than one copy?
You do own multiple copies of the movie Ghost Rider.
With Nicolas Cage. Yeah.
I own the director's edition Blu-ray extended cut of Batman v Superman.
Yeah. No, that's a good movie. No,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I loved Suicide Squad. I loved Fantastic Fours. This is what I got at the comic book store. Yeah. But I stand by it. I love the Matthew Broderick Godzilla.
Oh, I love it too. I own that. That is one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, this is my specific niche. So
yep.
I mean, hey,
when Valerian came into this
if you find enjoyment in that, that's A-okay. There's nothing wrong with that, you know. There's nothing wrong with liking something that a lot of people don't like. So nothing wrong with that.
The big reason that I like it, that why it falls into that category, and the same way I feel about those other movies, is that this is overall fun.
Yes.
Core word is fun. I'm entertained. I may not fully understand this plot, but I'm having a good time, and I think this is a cool adventure that I can follow. Yeah. And that's how it's the same way that's how I felt about Suicide Squad.
Yeah, and
I was just about to say that is not how I felt with Suicide Squad.
Excellent.
Suicide Squad was I don't know why, this doesn't make sense. He has no reason to be here. Why aren't the superheroes here? This is a world-ending event, so they say, and none of the heroes show up? Come on, guys.
Batman showed up. Batman showed up.
Anyways.
Fun connection between Valerian and Suicide Squad. Enchantress is also played by the actress that plays Laureline.
Yes.
Oh, that is her!
Mm-hmm.
I hope she goes on to do more fun super movies that everyone else
The
hates.
wiggly Enchantress.
Yeah. No, I dug it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, last week I pitched you a series of very, very colorful movies, Kyle, to sort of balance out the fact that we'd done 2 black and white movies in quick succession, and one of the other pitches was Speed Racer.
Yes.
Which is similarly I couldn't exactly tell you what's going on, but this looks amazing and it makes me feel good.
I've heard very, very mixed things with that too. There's people who went in and were just that was a weird movie, and then there were some that was they nailed it. They fucking nailed it. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, which I also know nothing about Speed Racer, except I think I might. Do I still have it? I don't know if I do. I think I found volume 1 of the comics at the dollar store. Yeah, there are. Yes, I still have it here. It was hiding. Published by IDW. I found volume 1 of Speed Racer, and I found it at the dollar store.
Look at him.
And so I picked it up for $1. I read through it. The art, it's older comics. Let me see if I can find out when it was originally published. Does it have any of the publishing information?
Who published that, by the way?
IDW.
Oh, that's right. Oh, that sounds like them. They own a lot of those
the
old
IP,
nostalgic TV show brands. Yeah. Who wrote it?
Give me one sec here. I don't know when it was originally published. It says 2008 in this, but I don't think that's the original publishing because the artwork is a lot older. It's written by Len Straczewski, I believe that is how you pronounce his name, and penciled by Gary Washington, inked by Brian Thomas, and I think that was the inks and stuff like that varied, but it's basically Len Straczewski and Gary Washington.
Okay, I believe those are IDW in-house creators.
Yeah, but the artwork is like this super like 80s style cartoon, almost watercolor.
Whoa!
Oh, that looks great.
Yeah, like highly.
It looks like airbrushed.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's like the artwork is kind of like, if it is in fact like 2008, like it's kind of a cool style of artwork to be like, oh, it looks like these old cartoons and stuff like that, or like an old manga or something that I would have found.
Probably close to the art style of Time Jam, Valerian the Spatial Temporal Agent.
Yeah. But besides that, I know nothing about Speed Racer, so.
we'll put that on our list of things we have to introduce to each other.
That's also another John Goodman hometown hero.
Hometown hero, yes,
So
yes, we were talking about this.
Is that who I was about to ask? Who is the actor?
Yes, John Goodman is from Missouri. He's from around the Springfield, Missouri area. We were talking about this before we started recording, that unless you count Infinity War, this is the first thing you and I have covered that has included an actor from my home state.
There you go.
Infinity War includes the Gunn brothers.
Who actually have a connection to. My new boss at the donut shop used to be a stuntman and watched stand up from Sean Gunn and hung out with the Guns. It's so weird, right?
Of
I want to be friends with
Kevin
Gunn.
Bacon. You guys are one step closer to Kevin Bacon, because he also worked on an X-Men film, which is a Marvel film, kind of.
Oh, that's right.
So you guys are very close to Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
I'm almost ready to reach him. My destiny is almost complete.
I'm coming for you, Kevin Bacon.
After all these years, I've got your bacon.
Bring that bacon on home.
That's the name for Valerian. Bring that bacon on home.
Valerian, bring that bacon on home.
Do we have any other final closing thoughts?
Let's see.
Kyle, after having seen this movie, would you recommend it? Would you watch it again at some point in your future?
Probably not anytime near future.
Would you watch it if it was on?
Yeah, sure. At least on in the background, I think, you can go in and just have fun and watch it. I would say don't expect it to be super deep or say much. It is just this hey, let's just have a fun sci-fi space romp kind of thing. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, it is exactly that. It is a romp. If you just want a big, glittery, glitzy sci-fi romp, and you're like me, and even if it's not great, you still love a investigative partnership with a will they, won't they romance, this is for you. You can have a good time.
And you don't have to see it in 3D.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you see one or the other, it's the same movie.
There you go. Good stuff. Cool. Well, I think it is my turn to do pitches for this week.
Mel, I will act as your vizier.
Yes,
in this situation.
you can kind of influence her one way or another.
I will just perch on your shoulder and whisper.
You will tell me if you own this thing and if I can borrow it from you or not.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you ready for me to give you the pitches?
Yes, I got my pen and paper at hand.
Okay, let me see here. I found the first one. So I have 3 manga that we can choose from.
Ooh.
Usually I like to
Awesome.
mix it up and do one comic book, a movie, and something else, or 2 movies and this.
Yeah.
But I also kind of wanted to do a theme. I know last week you were pitching all colorful stuff. So I have.
Yeah, I like I like themes, and we haven't done a manga yet.
We have not done... Well, what did we do? No, we haven't done a manga yet.
Yeah.
I've pitched a couple since you've been on here. But yeah, so there's a genre of like manga and anime that I have barely dived into. The one that I have, I ended up really loving, and like surprisingly, like it's now one of my favorite animes. And I'm actually going to pitch the manga of that, but I'll get to that one in just a sec. The first one that I found, though, that I'm like, okay, I might as well just do all sports mangas.
Oh, hell yeah.
I have not really dived into the whole like sports genre of manga and stuff like that. First one I found on Comixology Unlimited, Chowdown Champs. And I was like, what in the world is this?
Is this a competitive eating sports manga?
Yes.
Oh my god! What?
So the
My world was empty until just now.
So was my stomach. So the synopsis says, the hunger for victory begins. Momotaro High School's competitive eating club was once a force to be reckoned with. The new coach, Kurataro, has come to restore the club to its former glory. So I wanted to read the first 4 volumes of that. Manga typically reads a little bit faster than American comics do. So the first 4 volumes of that, I saw it as I was scrolling through what was on Comixology Unlimited. I was like, that looks ridiculous. I have to
Yes.
check it out. So that one is called Chowdown Champs. My second one is Initial D. And this is the one that I watched. I had a roommate who was watching the anime, and I saw it and I knew about it, and he was like, dude, it's so good, you have to watch it. And so years afterwards I ended up watching it, and the manga is now, or the anime is now one of my favorite anime. It is surprisingly so good. It's about street racing. So if you've seen like Tokyo Drift, Fast and the Furious, that's kind of what it is. It's about this high school kid who is learning how to street race, and he ends up being this like prodigy. Whoops, my mic just peaked. Let me see if I can fix that. There we go. Cool. Yeah, so he's learning how to street race, and he ends up being this prodigy. And he, like, it turns out, what happened is that his father was also a street racer, so he's been around cars his whole life, and his dad has, like, been secretly teaching him how to drive and street race without him actually knowing it. It's more the Karate Kid, like, wax on, wax off stuff. So it's like, why am I painting the fence? Why am I, so he's a delivery boy for his father's tofu shop. And he's always, like, challenging him to, make the deliveries faster. Here's a cup of water. Don't spill the cup of water. Do all of the stuff. And then he starts to get into street racing, and he's really good, and he starts building up a name for himself and stuff like that. And he's just like this normal kid who's just like, I mean, I guess I street race. I don't really know. So yeah, it's good. It's a lot of fun, but I have not read the manga. So I wanted to read the first 3 volumes of that. And the third pitch is one I've seen. It's one I want to watch the anime of as well. It's a newer show, but I am going to be pitching the manga as well. It's called Haiku, which is the Japanese word for hurry.
Oh.
And I believe it's a volleyball, like men's like indoor volleyball thing, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's their like volleyball team, and they are going about. Let's see, I just pulled up the Wikipedia. Was initially published, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't information give me anything about the plot. Junior high school student Shoyo Hinata gains a sudden love of volleyball after seeing a national championship match on TV. Although short in height, he becomes determined to follow in the footsteps of the championship's star player nicknamed the Little Giant after he sees his plays. However, his dreams are destroyed in his first official match. I'll stop there so we don't read the whole thing. But yeah, so we have competitive eating, street racing, or high school men's volleyball.
Those are all so different.
Yes, they are.
What a variety we have. Well, Kyle, I cannot turn down Chow Down Champs.
I was also going to advise this if you didn't choose this.
Like, it has to be this one, Kyle.
It was so ridiculous. I was like, oh my goodness, I have to at least check it out and see what that is about.
I'm so happy you found this.
Because they have you, either of you guys seen Samurai Champloo? It's an anime.
I haven't.
No,
I haven't seen all of it.
So it's the same guy who made Cowboy Bebop and stuff like that, and Kids on the Slope. Actually, we did an episode on Kids on the Slope, but it's they have an episode where like the main woman character in there goes to a certain city and they're having an eating contest, and so the whole episode is her like training herself to be in this competition and like eat and stuff like that. It's really funny. But yeah, so Chow Down Champs volumes 1 through 4 I guess is what we will do for next week. Sounds good.
Awesome.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So you can catch us again, listeners, next Sunday at 11 Central, 12 Eastern Time to watch this live stream if you want to talk with us about Chow Down Champs in real time. Otherwise, we are available as a podcast in your favorite podcatcher. We are available on our YouTube channel. And if you would like to support us on Patreon, you can go to Patreon. Yes, please send us the dollars, and then we can buy bacon. We can go to Big Market and buy good virtual goods.
We can bring home Kevin bacon.
Yes!
We can go to patreon.com/the Whatnauts. For just $1, you can support us, and you can get our episodes early. If not, find us on your podcatcher, find us on YouTube. If you don't have $1 to send us, that's okay. Maybe you spend all of yours at Big Market, and you have, like, cool virtual hats and jewelry. You can just leave us a rating and review, tell a friend about us, follow us on Twitter, on Twitch, on YouTube. Do we have any others, Kyle, I'm forgetting about?
We have a Facebook as well. We have a Tumblr, but I haven't used it in like a year and a half. So if you want to follow our inactive Tumblr blog, you can.
I'm going to do that right now.
Follow that. There you go.
Yeah,
I think we're at the Whatnauts on most of the stuff. Yeah, I mean, you search the Whatnauts or the Whatnauts podcast. They're the Whatnauts podcast, and you can find most of our stuff. Yeah, I do have a little bit of other housekeeping before we wrap this up. We do have an episode. If you guys have recently gone to go see the Incredibles. We have an episode of The Incredibles up on our podcast called The Reactor Core. If you're searching in iTunes or on whatever podcatcher you use, if you search the Whatnauts, all of our podcasts will come up. We have more than one. And the Reactor Core is our kind of excuse to talk about like big blockbuster movies or Netflix shows. I actually just got done watching Luke Cage season 2. We won't have an episode on that, I don't think. But we just did one on The Incredibles 2, so if you guys want a spoiler cast on that, you guys can go find it. Also, we were supposed to record it on Friday, but it's been postponed. Eric Mannix and I are going to be recording the first new episode of the Captain's Log very soon. If not tonight, we're going to be doing it tomorrow. So by time you guys are listening to this, it will have already been recorded, and you guys will have to wait a bit to get that as a podcast. Or again, you can go to patreon.com/thewhatnauts and you can get it early. So yeah, that is all the housekeeping that I have right now. Be on the lookout for more.
Can I plug my things?
Yes,
absolutely.
The guest can go first in plugs.
Thank you. Thank you, sibling. So first off, you can find me on Twitter at JamsWilk. JamsWilk. I haven't spelled that before.
Yeah, it's a new thing to get used to when you start podcasting, to spell everything about you out loud.
Yeah. I haven't been on Twitter for very long. I'm still getting used to it. I also have a podcast that will be coming out later this year. We've only recorded the first few episodes. We want to get a few more under our belt before we start releasing this fall. It is a actual play RPG podcast called The Midnight Tavern.
Sweet.
Right now you can find that on Facebook at facebook.com/The Midnight Tavern RPG. The little icon will be a little black and white logo. We're on Instagram. We haven't posted that much at The Midnight Tavern RPG. Mel, did you want to talk about our secret project, or do you want to wait a little longer?
Well, we haven't even recorded the pilot yet.
But I'm giddy.
Oh, do you want to talk about it? Do you want to talk about our project to be?
It's definitely going to happen. So.
Yeah, we told Kyle about it, now we will tell other listeners about it. We are going to start a show called Saturday Morning Obscurities. We have yet to research that title and find out if anybody else has it, but I mean, probably not.
Probably not.
Sounds fairly original.
Yeah, it's going to be us talking about underrated and lesser-known Saturday morning cartoons and other animated programs and young adult entertainment.
Awesome. Did Melissa mention to you that I have all the episodes of Street Sharks on DVD?
Ooh.
It's
you know she did.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. You'll definitely be on our Street Sharks episode.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so look for that at some point in the eventual future. For me, you can find me on Twitter at Wilkywit, WILKYWIT. And if you enjoyed hearing me and my brother talk very enthusiastically about movies, my friend has a podcast called Trifecta, that's try with a Y, and we recently did an episode about 3 movies where Hugh Jackman sings. And so we watched Les Miserables, The Greatest Showman, and a recording of his West End production of Oklahoma. And Jams loves The Greatest Showman.
Yes.
Awesome.
So if you want more stuff like that, you can go listen to that episode from us.
Awesome. Sounds good. If you guys want to yell at me on the internet, you can find me at Hush315 on Twitter. And I guess if you want to follow the Whatnauts on Twitter for updates about all of our shows, we are at the Whatnauts. I am the man behind the mysterious Whatnauts Twitter there.
You are the Wizard of Oz.
I am the Wizard of Oz, yeah. Go follow us, do all that stuff. You already mentioned all of that. I guess that is it then.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening.
Last thing, if you do want to follow along at home for next week on Chowdown Champs, it is on Comixology Unlimited. You guys can go sign up for that. If you already are sign up and are a member, it will be on there for free. I mean, I guess it's not really free because it's a monthly fee, but still, you can read a whole bunch of comics for free if you pay them their monthly thing. So it's great. Great deal.
Yeah. Read along with us or just explore it at your own pace, because how can you turn down something called Chow Down Champs?
Exactly.
All right. Hopefully you will join us here again next time, audience. Also, Kyle, you're obligated to join me here next time. And
How
James,
dare
who knows?
you?
Yeah.
What if I
Thanks
don't
for having
want
me.
to?
You'll never see me again.
Okay, we have been the Whatnauts. This has been the review show. Have a good time, everybody.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye.